Havertz's name dominated the headlines today after Arsenal confirmed the forward has undergone a surgical procedure on his knee, a development that arrived like a thunderclap just days after he made a brief substitute appearance at Old Trafford. For a player who was expected to be a genuine contender for the central attacking role this season, someone penciled into rotation alongside Victor Gyökeres, the sudden need for surgery transforms a hopeful selection battle into an immediate crisis of availability. The club have described the procedure as successful and are hopeful his absence will be measured in weeks rather than the long months that once looked possible, but even a matter of weeks alters how Mikel Arteta will manage the opening fixtures and the Champions League group stage. The blunt reality is that Arsenal's front line suddenly loses an experienced option who had been built into Arteta's early plan. Havertz offered a particular blend of size, technical ability and link play that allowed the manager to switch between a false nine, a number 9 and a deeper creative pivot. Tactical flexibility the squad will sorely miss in congested periods. Instead of rotating freely, Arteta must now consider a shorter list of immediate solutions, thrust Gyökeres into a heavier load as the main target, ask wider players to tuck inside and finish attacks, or repurpose midfielders into more advanced support roles. Each choice brings risks. Gyökeres will face extra physical strain, and moving creative midfielders forward could hollow out Arsenal's control in the middle of the park, but short-term pragmatism is likely to rule the next few match plans. Beyond the tactical jigsaw, there are consequential questions about squad depth and the transfer window. Arsenal have invested heavily this summer and added notable attacking profiles, yet losing Havertz tightens margins and shifts the calculus on whether a late emergency signing is required, or whether the club will trust internal options to see them through. The pressure is also psychological. Teammates who had expected a training ground duel for the starting berth must quickly refocus on collective resilience. For supporters, the immediate fear is not only about missing one player, but about the cumulative effect if injuries stack up across the squad, forcing Arteta into makeshift lineups against elite opposition. The coming international breaks and fixture swings will be watched obsessively, because how Arsenal navigate this short storm could define the early momentum of their season. There are, however, measured reasons to avoid panic. Reports emphasise that the operation was minor and that a return in weeks, not months, remains the working expectation, which keeps open a realistic route for Havertz to rejoin the campaign before the season reaches the critical winter run. That timeline matters. A 6-week absence is painful but manageable. A multi-month layoff would be structurally transformative. In the meantime, the story becomes an opportunity to see which players step up. Gyökeres will be watched for consistency and durability, younger forwards could be given minutes to stake claims, and Arteta's substitutions and in-game adjustments will likely become even more pronounced as he searches for a repeatable formula without Havertz's particular gifts. For neutral observers and rivals, Arsenal's response is now the headline. Will the club chase a short-term fix in the market, or will Arteta double down on the internal squad and tactical tweaks? Either route will reveal how much faith the manager and the board place in the players already assembled. For fans, the emotional arc is immediate: concern for a popular player's well-being, frustration at another injury after a player's long recovery, and a sharpened urgency about the team's upcoming fixtures. The coming weeks will not only test the medical timetable, but also the squad's character. The ability to absorb setbacks, adapt lineups, and keep momentum alive across domestic and European contests. If Havertz returns quickly as hoped, this chapter will be read as a scare. If his absence stretches, the club will have to reframe its strategy on the fly. Either way, the next selection decisions and transfer chatter will tell us how Arsenal intend to respond to a shock that arrived when expectations were high and the margins for error were already thin. Watch for the official recovery updates from the club, the minutes Gyökeres accumulates, and how Arteta balances ambition with pragmatism. Those signals will show whether Arsenal can weather this shock without having to rewrite their season aim. The narrative is now less about one man's misfortune and more about a team's immediate capacity to pivot, adapt and prove that the depth and planning behind the summer's transfer choices can withstand an early test.